This week, President Obama nominates Michael Huerta as permanent administrator of the FAA. Diamond Aircraft presses forward with unleaded fuel certification, and Cessna says it's moving forward with the TTX. I'm Ashley Hale. Welcome to Airborne on Aero TV. Not quite 4 months after assuming the mantle under the interim label, President Obama has nominated FAA Acting Administrator Michael Huerta to fill the post on a permanent basis. Huerta's background is far more focused on administration than aviation. He is not a pilot. He served with both the New York City and San Francisco ports, and then at the DOT under Secretaries Federico Pena and Rodney Slater. His bachelor's degree is in political science, and he also holds a master's in international relations. He became acting administrator following the resignation of Randy Babbitt, who was stopped for a DUI in Northern Virginia in December. Huerta must be confirmed by the U.S. Senate, which, given the current political climate and looming elections, is no foregone conclusion. His name was not one of those that had been mentioned regularly by the aviation industry or its advocacy groups. Rather than just sitting and waiting for the rest of the industry to bless an avgas replacement, Diamond Aircraft has set off on a course to have all of its piston airplanes certified to run on unleaded Autogas. Tom Patton has more on that story.
Diamond says it will aggressively pursue a course to offer a choice of power plants, along with environmentally responsible fuel options that are tailored specifically to different geographic regions and individual preferences. And it will start with its two most popular models, the DA40 single and the DA42 twin, powered by Lycoming engines. An upcoming service instruction from Lycoming, along with an EASA Safety Information Bulletin, will make it possible for European-based Lycoming-powered Diamonds to operate with 91-octane unleaded avgas in the very near future. And Diamond says this is just the beginning. The company plans to look at additional unleaded fuel options for its Lycoming-powered airplanes, which will mean maximum flexibility regardless of geographic location. The company also plans to add the DA20 C1 two-seater to the MoGas list, making for an all-unleaded fuel-capable fleet. For Airborne, I'm Tom Patton.
There are signs of life for the former Columbia Corvalis aircraft line. Cessna announced this week that it is making progress with its Corvalis TTX. The TTX is replacing the Corvalis TT, adding the option of a flight into known icing or FIKI system, which Cessna says will mean up to 2.5 hours of protection for most ice attaching to the airframe with virtually no impact on the aircraft's performance. The TTX will be powered by a twin turbocharged engine and will be constructed largely of composite materials. The avionics suite has been upgraded as well and includes the Garmin GTC touchscreens as part of the Cessna intrinsic avionics suite powered by the Garmin G2000 system. Cessna says it expects to begin deliveries of the TTX in late 2012. Meanwhile, the Wichita planemaker has signed 2 strategic agreements with Aviation Industry Corporation of China, which could lead to joint development of general and business aviation and the People's Republic of China. The agreements are expected to pave the way for a range of business jets, utility single-engine turboprops, and single-engine piston aircraft to be manufactured and certified in China. The agreements will lead to the formation of joint ventures that will pursue various activities pertaining to the development of general aviation businesses in China, including the establishment of an aircraft service network in China, and sets the stage for taking on a joint venture to produce mid-size Cessna business jet models, as well as a potential new product for the business jet market. If you thought the proposal to charge for chart data had fallen by the wayside, well, no such luck. The FAA is in the process of checking cost and pricing for AeroNav products to help develop a final proposal. Although the FAA has not set any dates for completion of the final proposal or a timeline for implementation, the agency says it will keep the aviation community informed about its progress. The FAA says some of the digital products that it made available were replicated and resold without authorization, and at least in some cases, the agency says it was done in a way that did not preserve the integrity of the original product, which could create a potential safety risk. In addition, the FAA says its cost recovery for digital products has not kept pace with changing technology. The agency says the final proposal will take into account feedback it received from industry leaders and stakeholders at a meeting it held in December of last year. Save your dollars, folks. The FAA is hungry. A jury in Portland, Oregon ruled Tuesday that a GE engine was to blame for an accident in which 9 firefighters were fatally injured. The crew was being airlifted from the Iron 44 wildfire in Shasta Trinity National Forest near Weaverville, California, in a Sikorsky S-61N helicopter when it went down. Attorneys for GE said that the helicopter, which was carrying 13 people at the time of the accident, was overloaded by some 1,400 pounds. They said the pilots on board had received inaccurate weight and balance information from Carson Helicopters of Grant Pass, Oregon, the aircraft's owner. One of the pilots survived the accident and was a party to the suit. The attorney for the plaintiffs said that GE knew of a design flaw in the fuel system of the helicopter's engine. In all, the surviving pilot and his wife were awarded $41.3 million, while the estate of the other pilot was awarded $28.4 million. GE has said it plans to appeal the verdict. You're watching Airborne. More in a moment.
Since the early days of powered flight, pilots have struggled with landing in crosswinds and learning proper crosswind landing techniques. Even today, most crosswind landing skills are learned through trial and error, sometimes with disastrous results. Believe it or not, the most common contributing factor in weather-related accidents each year is crosswinds. The second most common factor is wind gusts. In fact, crosswinds and wind gusts cause more landing accidents than fog, thunderstorms, and icing combined. That's where the Redbird X-Wind SE comes in. It teaches pilots the proper techniques to meet and beat these top 2 causes of weather-related landing accidents. By placing pilots in gusty crosswind conditions for extended periods of time, the X-Wind SE gives instructors all the time they need to teach the pilot the proper techniques for landing in challenging crosswind conditions. For more information on Redbird flight simulations, the Redbird X-Wind SE, and Redbird's entire line of flight training devices, visit www.redbirdflightsimulations.com.
Welcome back. If you'd like to suggest a story for Airborne, Aero TV, our website, or our podcast, drop us an email to news-spy@aero-news.net. There have been a lot of new and updated products introduced to the GA community this week. The ever-innovative Avidyne series tops our list on Airborne with the rollout of dual system configuration of their IFD 540 FMS GPS nav comms. Dual IFD 540s allow a pilot to enter a flight plan using the full-screen QWERTY keyboard on one of the touchscreen units, while simultaneously viewing a synchronized full-screen moving map on the other. In addition, flight plans stored or edited in one unit can be automatically synchronized to the other unit. Hybrid touch means that essentially all IFD 540 functions that can be performed through the touchscreen, with the exception of map planning and graphical flight planning, can also be accomplished using the dedicated knobs and buttons. The IFD 540 is a slide-in replacement for the popular GNS 530 series navigators. The FAA has granted TSO approval to Aspen for the Evolution Backup Display System, now available for third-party STC and OEM applications. The Evolution Backup Display is a fully digital, independent flight display system designed to replace mechanical backup instruments used in Part 23 EFIS installations. In the event of primary EFIS failure or loss of electrical power, Aspen says its backup display significantly enhances safety and situational awareness over that provided by traditional steam or electronic backup gauges. All versions come standard with a large capacity emergency power source that provides a minimum of 2 hours of continuous operation following loss of the airplane's main electrical power. Garmin's product news this week will likely make pilots using tablets and smartphones in the cockpit take note. The company rolled out a new Aviation app for iOS and Android-based mobile devices. The app brings Garmin's aviation features to tablets and smartphones, offering pilots complete navigation, trip planning, do-what-s filing, weather, and electronic flight bag capabilities. Another iOS device unveiled this week is from a company called Appareo. The Stratus is a cockpit weather receiver and Wi-Fi transmitter, which combines an ADS-B and GPS receiver into a single unit to wirelessly stream next-rad radar, text weather, TFRs, and aircraft position to the popular ForeFlight mobile app for iOS devices. Stratus is a battery-powered device that is tightly integrated with ForeFlight. The Wi-Fi connection allows multiple iPads to connect to Stratus, making it possible for 2 pilot crews to view weather on separate iPads. Rounding out the new products first seen this week is Vertical Power's VP400 system, a backup EFIS that flies the aircraft safely to the best runway in an emergency. During flight, the VP400 constantly searches for the best runway to land in an engine-out glide scenario. In an emergency, the pilot presses a red button on the instrument panel and the system automatically flies the aircraft to the best runway for landing. On short final, the pilot disconnects the system and lands the plane manually. The VP400 and its companion product, the VP300, which provides guidance only, are designed specifically for the experimental and light sport aircraft markets. Next week is the Aircraft Electronics Association's annual convention, held in the nation's capital, and ANN will be providing extensive coverage of the event, including 3 live sessions for the most critical features of AEA 2012. On April 4th, ANN's live coverage commences at 08:15 with the opening ceremonies of the event and the keynote address of retired Air Force Colonel Mark W. Tillman, chosen as the nation's 12th presidential pilot. At 09:30, April 4th, one of the most informative sessions in all of aviation will commence. The 2012 AEA New Product Introductions. Log in and view all of the new products being unveiled during the fast-paced, high-tech event. Live coverage will take a break at 1200 and resume later in the afternoon. Starting at 1500 Eastern Time Wednesday, ANN will offer several hours of exciting interviews and information sessions from the floor of AEA 2012 trade show. Wednesday afternoon's programming will be webcast with an emphasis on innovation. The innovation-oriented program is being offered with the kind assistance of True North Avionics and will look at the products and technologies of particular interest for the coming year. On Thursday, April 5th, ANN's live coverage resumes at 1600 Eastern Time. Already confirmed for Thursday afternoon are AEA President Paula Dirks, AEA Vice President of Government and Industry Affairs Rick Perry, and Mike Adamson, AEA's VP of Member Programs and Education, as well as the Executive Director of the AEA Educational Foundation. Other topics on schedule for Wednesday's programming include interviews with leading avionics shops about the state of the industry and the need for qualified techs, as well as a follow-up interview with those associated with some of the hottest new products announced at the MPI session. Something of a greatest hits of the 2012 AEA MPI. Don't miss it. In just a moment, ANN Editor-in-Chief Jim Campbell sounds off on the verdict in the GE engine case in this week's Barnstorming. I'm Ashley Hale, and you're Airborne on Aero TV.
The DFC-90 all-digital attitude-based autopilot delivers significant performance and safety improvements over previous generation systems. Its innovative flight envelope protection guards against autopilot-induced stalls and the straight and level mode provides one-button recovery from unusual attitudes for an added measure of safety. Immensely popular within the cirrus community, the DFC-90 is now being made available for a growing list of aircraft including Piper Matrix and Mirage, Cessna 182s, and Beech Bonanzas and Barons. Fly with confidence. Fly with DFC-90.
Thanks for joining us. It's time for this week's Barnstorming Commentary. We had a story earlier in the program about a jury handing out a multi-million-dollar verdict against GE in an accident involving a helicopter powered by its engines. ANN's editor-in-chief Jim Campbell says that that jury and the legal system was wrong, and here's why.
Hi Ashley, and hey folks. Busy week here at ANN, lots going on. We're getting ready for AEA next week. We're more excited than we can possibly tell you over what's coming, but not so excited that we can't see a really bad story when it hits us straight in the kisser. And this particular case is just driving me a little bit nuts. Horrible tragedy occurred in August of 2008 when a Sikorsky S-61N staggered off the ground, barely got 150 yards before it hit some trees, crashed and burned with 13 people on board. 9 of them died. The other 4 were seriously injured. Now, you would think that there's the typical legal onslaught afterwards and that the lawyers are going after this and this is going to happen and that's going to happen and so forth and so on. And in fact, that did indeed take place. But get this, even though the engines were developing 100% horsepower and were doing just fine at the point of impact, but the helicopter simply was being operated some 1,400 pounds over gross, GE is on the hook for some $70 million in damages, having been found 57% culpable in an accident that the NTSB said wasn't their fault. And you wonder why we're paying such incredible prices for everything associated with aviation. Somebody told me the other day that a $500,000 airplane was at least $50,000 in legal costs just built into every price sticker, and in some cases even more. Something's seriously wrong with this. The fact of the matter is very simple. Justice relies on truth. Truth relies on evidence. And the evidence basically states that in this particular case, the jury went with the emotional verdict of finding a deep pocket, anybody, to pay for the tragedy that involved 13 families, 9 fatals, and a couple of folks in particular. They did not go after the culpable parties here, probably because they couldn't under certain circumstances or couldn't pay. But the plain fact of the matter is GE's on the hook. They say they're going to fight it, and they damn well should. The legal system has victimized aviation long enough. This entire industry trembles at the cough of a nearby lawyer. It's time that we look at serious tort reform, not the statute of repose, but making sure that the evidence fits the verdicts. The verdicts are based on fact, and NTSB probable cause data is admissible, and all the facts are measured together in a verdict, so that truth will equal justice, and justice will not be a game played by lawyers at the cost of an industry that's been victimized for far too long. For the Aero-News Network, Aero TV, and Airborne, I'm Jim Campbell.
They've been doing it for youngsters for years. Now EAA is introducing its Eagle Flights program, a new aviation orientation program for adults. The program will have its official kickoff this summer with inaugural flights at Oshkosh. Based on the enormously successful EAA Young Eagle Flights for Youth, it will focus on one-to-one flight experiences and pathways that help adults towards discovering more about flying and eventual pilot certification. The program was first announced at AirVenture 2011. EAA officials say that the program is part of their effort to reduce barriers to entering aviation and encouraging participation. We have to ask though, is this new group going to be called the Bald Eagles instead of the Young Eagles? Just kidding. American Airlines has made good on its threat to ask a judge to void its union contracts after extensive negotiations have failed to produce an agreement in its bankruptcy proceedings. The airline filed a motion Tuesday in U.S. bankruptcy court in Manhattan that throws out its collective bargaining agreements with its pilots union, as well as the flight attendants and members of the Transportation Workers Union. The move makes American a target for takeover attempts, according to a report in Bloomberg Business Week, if a white knight comes in to offer a less austere package of concessions. In a news release, the Allied Pilots Association said voiding the contracts would not mean long-term success for the company. The carrier has asked for some 13,000 job cuts and other concessions as it formulates a plan to emerge from Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Japan Airlines has taken delivery of its first Dreamliners, and these airplanes are the first to be certified with the GE NX engines. Boeing said the certification capped off, quote, the most robust flight and ground test program ever conducted in the company's history. Japan Airlines ceremonially took possession of the 787 Dreamliners at a celebration with Japanese taiko drummers and a dramatic airplane unveiling late last week. Guests from Boeing, Japan Airlines, and General Electric all attended. A captain on a JetBlue flight from New York to Las Vegas this week reportedly began exhibiting, quote, erratic behavior in the cockpit, leading the co-pilot to convince him to leave and then lock him out. Discovering he was unable to get back onto the flight deck, he reportedly began running up and down the aisle of the airplane, talking about bombs, Iraq, and Afghanistan, according to witnesses who spoke to multiple media sources. JetBlue would not officially identify the pilot, who was eventually subdued and restrained by several passengers. CNN reports that JetBlue CEO David Barger told NBC's Today Show that he knows the pilot personally and that he suffered from a medical condition that caused him to act erratically. Federal law enforcement officials have identified the pilot as Clayton Osborne, according to the cable news service. No charges have yet been filed in the case, which is still under investigation. An off-duty pilot joined the co-pilot in the cockpit, and the plane landed safely in Amarillo, Texas. Each week, we share with you a sample of an online video one of our viewers thought was especially entertaining. We call it AVW, the Aero Video of the Week. This week, a video from Carter Aviation Technologies showing flight testing of its PAV, or Personal Air Vehicle, Phase 2 flight test. To find this video, go to YouTube and search for Carter PAV. The full video runs 1 minute and 22 seconds. And if you have a suggestion for a future Aero video of the week, send us a link to news-spy@aero-news.net. Finally this week, it won't be happening anytime soon, but a company in California has developed a business plan that would have tacos delivered to hungry customers using a quadcopter UAV. The customer would use a GPS-equipped smartphone to place the order, and as long as he or she stayed put, the autonomous UAV would deliver the tacos right to their door or wherever they might be. But of course, the whole pesky FAA approval of UAVs in U.S. airspace thing has the business on hold. But the website is all the rage for the moment. Aero Munchies, anyone? Get comprehensive, real-time, 24/7 coverage of the latest aviation and aerospace stories anytime at aero-news.net. And join us again next week for another edition of Airborne here on Aero TV. I'm Ashley Hale. Thanks for watching. See you next week.